Yep, we're recording.
All right, sounds good. We'll get started in 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 149 of the It's a Pictures podcast. My name is John Gilpatrick, and joining you, as always, is...
the co-host with the mostest, Max Colville.
How are you doing today, Max?
I'm doing pretty well today, John.
Good.
Both Boston hockey and basketball are very high in the playoff seedings. And
Yeah, for real. Exciting time for Boston sports fans. Exciting time for Philly, I guess I should say, sports fans, not the Phillies. They're not doing so hot, but other Philly sports are doing okay between the Sixers and the Jalen Hurts extension. So all good there. And I just got back from South Carolina, which was a wonderful time. And we are in a period of very eccentric weather in the Northeast, I think. You too?
Yes.
Yeah, it was freezing cold today, and it was 85 last week, and it's going to be 85 again this week. So who knows what's happening, but yeah, things are good. It's spring. The days are longer. I'm enjoying things, and it's spring now, but we are going to talk summer movies because even though they're called summer movies, they start on May 5th this year. This is an old favorite. We haven't done this in probably since 2019.
Yeah, it's been a while because COVID kind of smashed things up, and we weren't sure how it would go even last year. So I'm excited to do this again. It was always fun.
Yeah, this is something that we used to do annually. It's called the Summer Box Office Game, where we're going to draft summer movies and accumulate their domestic box office totals to the point where one of the two of us will win. We will assign the loser a movie to watch, which he may or may not watch.
I think I've caught up with all the ones.
I'm sure you have. Yeah. I'm joking, but it doesn't happen overnight, so some grace period there, and that's kind of the gist of it. Just a fun kind of gamified way into a summer movie preview that we enjoy doing. So hopefully we'll do okay this year and not pick too many duds. Outside of that, we've got some movies we've been watching, but plenty of news, it seems. Since we last spoke, which I guess has been a little while, we had, on our last episode, we talked a little bit about the March Madness competition for, I guess the March Madness competition in general, which was won by UConn in not so thrilling fashion, but they had a great run. But more to the podcast point, the blank check March Madness bracket, which was a World Cup of all international directors, and the finale was rousing. Were you following this? Because we talked about it, and I know I'm a bigger blank check fan than you are, but what were you sort of doing on the, morning of March 30th?
No, I mean, I didn't vote in the final four and keep that close, but I think I voted in the final round, and we had talked about who I had wanted to win on the last show, and it was exciting that the four directors that they had left in general to see which one of them would come out on top.
Yeah, it definitely felt like any of them could have been contenders for the win. It ended up coming down to Park Chan-wook, who was a 4 seed, versus Bong Joon-ho, who was a number 1 seed, and I think probably for a lot of people the prohibitive favorite based off of his performance in previous brackets. And it came down literally to one vote, and it was wild. Park Chan-wook won. I voted for Park Chan-wook, so I was very excited that
you were the difference maker,
along with 10,000 or so other people cast a deciding vote. It was very exciting. I'm not on Twitter, so I was kind of wondering if that was something that was going on Twitter. I know the Reddit was just going bananas. But it was fun, and I'm excited. I mean, I ended up voting for Park Chan-wook because I'm less familiar with his movies than I am Bong Joon-ho and Wong Kar-wai, who was also in the semifinals, and Guillermo del Toro. So I kind of thought that might be fun. It's not a total blank slate for me, but it's enough that like I've seen a few of his movies that I've enjoyed, and I'm kind of eager to learn more. So it seemed like
You're not turned off by like the violence in his movies.
surprisingly not. At least the ones I've seen. I can't speak to some of the others. I've never seen his Old Boy,
Okay.
so I know that one's can be going to be a little bloody. But yeah, I mean, like The Handmaiden for me was like kind of like revelatory. Like, holy cow, this movie is freaking awesome. So I'm excited for that episode. I'm excited for Stoker, weirdly enough, just because it's such an odd kind of English language debut type movie. And like I said, to kind of learn more about some of his earlier stuff. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I'm me. Like as for me, I know a few of his movies as well. I know Old Boy and Handmaiden and Decision to Leave is
Oh,
really
Decision to Leave too, right? Of course, yeah, last year.
um, but, yeah, some of the stuff like Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance and Lady Vengeance I haven't seen.
Only by reputation, I know those
Right.
movies. But yeah, it'll be interesting. And then on the Patreon side, and getting super deep, it was the Oceans franchise won for the commentary series. I don't remember who that beat, but it wasn't. I don't think it was super close. That was kind of the Yukon of that bracket. Just sort of steamrolled a lot of competitors along the way. So that'll be fun too. But yeah, that was great. And in other movie competition news, we had the con titles released. I was not prepared for this because, again, I'm not on social media, so I didn't know this was coming, and it seemed early, but maybe it wasn't. It was exciting nonetheless. What was your kind of big take for the con announcement?
Yeah, I kind of knew it was coming, and certainly there was a lot of like hype build up, and like we knew Indiana Jones was gonna show there, and of course, Killers of the Flower Moon.
Killers of the Flower
We knew
Moon.
that was gonna show up yeah, out of competition. Um, but yeah, I at first glance I was kind of like, I'm disappointed with the competition selection, but as usual, if you dig a little deeper, there's things to be excited about.
There's a lot of stuff in here. I mean, there's definitely some filmmakers who I like have never heard of in my life, but I know that like they're trying to open up a little bit more. So especially when it comes to female directors, and I think they said that this is like a record number of women directed movies in competition. But if you're not offering those opportunities to women directors previously, it's hard for them to kind of break in. And so you're seeing some of that here. But there's like, some old hats here between, I mean, Todd Haynes has a movie here. Ken Loach has a movie. He's always there. Wim Wenders is here, which kind of was like a bit of a surprise. Wes Anderson's, his movie, The Asteroid City, is going to be in competition, which is, I think, usually the case. Jonathan Glazer has a new movie, which I think I knew he had a new movie coming, but I don't know that I thought it was going to be in competition at Cannes. He hasn't made a movie in a decade.
Yeah, good long time.
And his last one was Under the Skin, which was insane. And this now he's making, I think, a Holocaust movie. Am I correct in that?
Oh, I'm not too sure on many of these. I haven't read too much into them.
I'm pretty sure Zone of Interest is related to World War II and the Holocaust, but I could be wrong. I don't know. The Turkish director Ceylan has a movie called About Dry Grasses, which is like the most Nuri Bilge Ceylan title imaginable. When he won the Palme d'Or, it was for Winter Sleep, which was definitely a winter sleep. And then your buddy Hirokazu Koreeda is in competition for what seems like the 14th year in a row.
Right.
Prolific he is.
Yeah, he makes a new film every year. This one's called Monster. But actually, one of the ones I'm most anticipating is the Alice Rohrwacher film, the La Chimera, which is her follow up to Happy as Lazario, which was a fun and really intriguing little film. I'm excited to see what she does next.
I never saw that movie, but I think it won a prize at Cannes.
Yeah, I think it was buried on Amazon. Like they got the not Amazon, Netflix.
Netflix. It was on Netflix. I remember that. Yeah.
they got the rights to it, and then like no one ever watched it.
Shocker. Oh, Netflix. Good job. Anything else? I mean, I see Steve McQueen has a movie that's coming out. I think it's also a World War II movie.
It might be. I think it might be like a documentary or like a
Oh,
movie.
is it really? Oh, I thought it was about like sort of the London Blitz, but again, that was one I didn't really read too much into. But it's not in competition, and along with the Scorsese movie, and yeah, Indiana Jones, same deal there. I suppose there's going to be a couple more titles added. That usually happens, and I'm pretty sure I saw the festival director said as much, that he would expect at least a handful of additional titles to be dropped in here. But also, if memory serves me right, those are typically not like contenders for prizes. So so that could be a coincidence, but we'll see.
All right. Yeah, I'm glad that we did it this way. I mean, we used to do these big rollout episodes and really
Yeah.
go deep into it, and I think like as far as what you and me know about the festival and like can like dip our toes into it, this is probably a little bit better than just thinking about films that A, we won't see for a while, and B, we know very little about.
Yeah, I agree. The jury champion, or sorry, jury director, I don't know why I said champion, is Ruben Östlund, who is the director of Triangle of Sadness last year, which won the Palme d'Or, and then also the
The Square, that one.
the Square, which won the Palme d'Or like 5 or 6 years ago. So he is going to be sort of shepherding the jury through selecting winners. I guess a successor for him. And I don't know, maybe a little bit closer we can make our annual random prediction. But yeah, that's Ken. Anything else you want to add there?
No, just seeing how those movies play out, and excited to hear how they are from all the way over there in France.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, even though, like you said, like we aren't going to see a lot of these movies for months or even a year or more, it's just kind of exciting to know, like, it's exciting to know how good they are, frankly, and everybody should judge it for its own merits when it comes out. But if the Scorsese is getting rave reviews, like I'm already super excited about it. Like
Yeah,
I
I
want to
mean,
know what people who see it think of it.
and as someone who does enjoy Triangle of Sadness and had it in his top 10 last year, I think like the competition slate was like weak last year, and like
Yeah, that's what everybody said.
yeah, and like from the films that I've seen that were in competition, it kind of feels that way. So hopefully this turns out to be a better year.
Yeah, sure, that would be nice. I think the year prior was pretty good. I just the only one I'm remembering was Worst Person in the World, which was my favorite movie of the year, and didn't win anything. So I just sort of can only assume that there was other really good titles in the mix that year.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what this year has in store. The only other bit of news I thought we'd talk about, since we're doing box office this episode, is the state of the box office right now in America, and I guess the world, which is, kind of being owned by Super Mario Brothers. I got to be totally honest with you. Like, I haven't seen the movie. I know you did, and you're going to talk about it later on in what we've been watching. But this really bummed me out.
Why? I mean, it's a family film that came out like when families were desperate to find a movie to take their kids to, because like one
Yeah,
of them was like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. I guess.
yeah, that's fine. I don't know that that's gonna be the lesson that like Hollywood takes away from this necessarily. I think that, and I haven't seen it again, but I just, even if I really enjoy it, I don't think that there's anything that's going to change how I feel about it. Just absolutely demolishing at the box office, which is just kind of like, okay, like we can really just do stuff that has to just candidly, no real artistic merit whatsoever, and put it in theaters, and it's going to make $1 billion. And how many of these other franchises can we just kind of fan service to $1 billion? And I think that sucks.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, and certainly this is one of those. IP that was ripe for a film adaptation, or at least
It's something like this, right? Specifically.
right. But then again, that IP that Mario is beloved. I mean, they tried to do it with something like Angry Birds years ago. If you want to do like a transition from a game into a family-friendly film, and not quite the love that something like Mario has. And I'd argue there's few IP out there that probably have as much like visual and name recognition as Mario does.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true, but I don't think it's going to stop studios from trying to just force more of that down our throats, which is just why I'm not even concerned. Like it's knowing that you've lost, and it's just sort of like dejection.
do, do,
I'm just dejected about it.
do you think by the end of the year we'll still be in the top five biggest box office winners this year?
Well, I top five. I think it's almost undeniable. I think the
Yeah.
question is like, is it beatable? And I guess we're going to tackle that a little bit in the next segment because if something's going to do it, it's going to be over the next 4 months, I would assume. But I don't know. We'll see. What kind of legs does it have? Decent so far, it looks like, right?
Yeah, it looks like it has legs and jumping up and down on those Goombas pretty well.
Yeah, yeah. It keeps popping up question mark boxes and money shows up. So yeah, that's the box office, and we can jump over to what we think the box office will be for the months of May, June, July, and August. And Max, we did a coin flip off air that I won and was given the choice of choosing first or second, and I wanted to go first.
You didn't defer, if you
I
will.
did not defer. Yeah, right. And but we are going to do a snake draft, so I'll get the first pick, but you get the second and third, and then so on. We are going to pick 5 movies each, and then just in an effort to be as fair as possible. Once we get to the last round, you're going to kind of jump the line. You'll get the 9th pick. I'll get the 10th pick, and it'll make sense as we go. But
And also, whatever movies that either John or I pick, we have to also talk about them, what they're about, and why we decided to pick.
I thought you meant like it's like a contract to go see it in theaters, and I was like, ooh,
No.
that would be a wrinkle.
No, I'm saying because this is our summer movie preview, so
Of course, yeah. No, we'll discuss the movies and whether we're excited for them and why we think they're going to make money and so on and so forth. Anything else we should add before we get started?
um, I guess I should come up front and say that most of the time I do poorly at this, and John does defeat me. So we'll see.
That's because you
that,
give way too much credit to regular people.
What do you mean?
That you think that they're going to go see things that are good, and I know they're not. And so I pick like the worst movies, and you pick ones that actually sound interesting. And I'm like, dude, nobody's going to go see that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You're an optimist, and I am not. I'm a pessimist. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe you can stop the streak, I guess. Okay, so we're ready to start. I'm going to go note first, and perhaps to the surprise of no one, I'm going to select the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which is going to be the latest entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. At a point where the Marvel Cinematic Universe is like reeling for the first time in its history, I think, right?
Yeah, that's fair to say. I mean, like Ant-Man, Quantumania was not really well received. Their lead villain is in a whole heaping lot of trouble.
Yeah,
So
deservedly so.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like it, it's arguable. Like even like Wakanda Forever. I mean, it made bank, right? But I mean,
But I
I don't
think,
think it was as beloved as many of the Avengers films.
yeah, and I think that there was a sense that maybe it slightly underperformed versus expectations, considering what the first Black Panther movie did. And yeah, I don't think anybody left that movie feeling like, it was kind of a new high point artistically. Even though I thought it was fine enough. And Angela Bassett did well for herself with a pretty deep awards run.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, yeah, it is kind of like maybe some fatigue setting in, maybe some kind of aimlessness in the series of movies. Maybe the at least I can say for me, like more than anything else, and I haven't seen a Marvel movie besides Black Panther since I think Shang-Chi.
Okay.
So it's been a while. I've kind of fallen off the wagon and aren't. I'm definitely. I mean, thank God we don't have to go see these when we select them, because I'm not going to see Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Like, I didn't like the first one. I thought the second one was weirdly okay. But this is not the franchise that's going to lure me back into the seeing Marvel movies in theaters. Um, but for me, I think where it really kind of lost me was like this sense that, like, okay, now I have to watch TV shows to keep up with what's
Yes.
going on.
So, yeah.
And it's just I have zero interest in those and doing that. And yeah, it's just sort of like I guess I'll go see it if like I'm told by people I trust that there's something different worth seeing about these. And maybe that'll happen with this one. Hard to say. I mean, they're going to close out this. James Gunn is back, right, in the director's chair. And I think it's supposed to be a send off of a lot of these characters. I don't want to say all of them because I assume some of them will pop up from time to time here and there. But this is going to be, at least for a period of time, the last ride for was Star Lord and Drax and Gamora
Yeah.
and company, Rocket Raccoon.
Yeah, I mean, somebody like Rocket Raccoon and Groot, they're pretty easy to come in and record some lines if they need.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, but yeah, that's I think that's going to be the box office champion, at least of the summer. Um, I would I would predict that it does not outperform Super Mario Brothers, but that's not the question here. So, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is my captain on my team here.
Yeah, so I mean, your idea is that maybe the summer box office has already begun because Mario is doing so well and just gonna.
Oh yeah, now we're gonna have to do this in March because April is going to be the summer movie season.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's expected. I mean, like off the air, John and I just talked about him. We kind of expected the Marvel movie to go first. Um, years ago, I think like we talked about Endgame and
I think we
like
must have, yeah.
I don't maybe we decided that we couldn't use it or something like that. I forget, like, or like you had it and it was just like
The game was
so
over
far,
after a day.
yeah, it was so far ahead of everything else it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know if that's going to be the case of Guardians Volume 3. I know, like, all the things you said are true. Like, this is certainly James Gunn's last dance with Marvel for a while. He's now at DC, and he just shared that he completed the script for his new Superman movie. So,
Oh, good.
he's,
Good. That's great.
he's definitely going to be over there doing that. Um, yeah, I just think, like, out of all the heroes that are in current rotation at Marvel movies, I think like the Guardians probably have the most like fans or excitement around them. I mean, we've just seen a new trailer for the Marvels, which is like Captain Marvel 2. I don't think like that has the same excitement as this one does, or
No.
even like a Shang-Chi sequel. That's not up there. So I think right now this is the biggest movie for Marvel going forward for at least probably the next fiscal year. So, yeah, I think that there's going to be excitement to see this. Even if there's some fatigue setting in. So I think
Yeah.
it's a safe pick.
Yeah, to your point, like, should we have excluded it? I think we both agreed that it's not such a behemoth likely that that it's going to sort of render the rest of this competition moot. But I still feel like it was the right choice for number one. And you'll need to, I think, find a couple heavy hitters to keep up with it here.
All right, so I'm gonna. It doesn't matter which one I pick, two or three, other than just like on the board.
Nope, not really. Yeah.
For number two on the summer movie contest, I'm gonna go with Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning.
Okay, that would have been my choice in one of these two spots also.
Okay. This one is the newest entry in the Mission Impossible franchise with Tom Cruise and Simon Pegg and company. It's part one of two, and I guess also heading into wrapping up Mission Impossible. I'd assume maybe Tom Cruise has another one after these two. Um, but I was doing some research, John, before I did my um, list here, and they said like maybe even Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible is gonna get a box office boost after the excitement of Top Gun Maverick.
Oh, I think almost certainly, yeah.
And so maybe people will be like, "Oh yeah, Tom Cruise, he did an awesome movie, and I want to see what else he has going on." And we'll come out to see this one, and it has that big draw of like you have to see it in theaters, and they've already been they released like 11-minute featurette on like one of the stunts he did in the movie, which is insane as always. I guess like I've heard rumors that we're gonna see another trailer for the movie, maybe even by the time you hear this podcast, or a week from now is the annual CinemaCon conference, and wouldn't surprise me if Paramount made sure that there was some footage from Dead Reckoning there, considering that was where the first footage made its debut. But yeah, as I said in the movie preview earlier this year, I was really excited for new Mission Impossible, probably one of my most anticipated movies of the year. When John and I did our series on the movies, I really just found that I loved all of them outside of like maybe I don't love three, but like there's merits in all of them
Yeah.
that make them watchable and enjoyable.
Yeah, I think two and three are the sort of weaker ones,
Right.
but they're like unique enough that like you still like appreciate them.
Yeah.
If they were all kind of the Macquarie movies that like as good as those are, and they're really really good. Like you like a little variety visually and kind of tonally, and I think two and three kind of scratch that itch. So I appreciate them very much for that reason.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like I enjoyed when we did our full series watch, and
Yeah, it was fun. I might do that again this summer.
yeah. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Get my IMAX ticket and get that on the screens.
Nice. So you get another pick here.
So my number three pick will be another Disney movie, and that will be The Little Mermaid live action.
Wow. Okay, that was not going to be on my radar for this high,
Yeah.
but yeah, like so sell me on it.
Yeah, so coming off of their other big box office champions like Lion King, which did ridiculous business over months and months of time, and Beauty and the Beast also did ridiculous business. I think that Little Mermaid is in that same company of nostalgia for people if they name like I guess most people think of Little Mermaid in the '90s, but it's actually an '80s movie. You think Little Mermaid, Lion King, and Beauty and the Beast, the big three movies there, and I think there's just a lot of love for that character and that movie that there's just going to be an outpouring of people who really want to see it, and I think like it's that family movie that people would be like, oh yeah, this is one that I can bring my kids to, and I think that will work pretty well for Disney. I think some of the ones that haven't really impressed. I mean, it's hard to calculate how well Mulan would have done, right? Because it was a pandemic movie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess they're releasing Peter Pan and Wendy, which is the new. It's the director I like from The Green Knight. but yeah, that one's coming exclusively to Disney Plus. So they obviously knew like that one wasn't big box office getter. But
Yeah,
um,
right. And then there was Pinocchio last year, which was a fiasco.
right. But yeah, I think there's excitement for Little Mermaid, and I think that it will do pretty well. I mean, I guess I'd be surprised if it doesn't. Um, but I looking at my chart here, I kind of understand what you'd pick for your next movie. But yeah, I feel pretty good about picking a family film up here.
I mean, that's fair. I do think that like it's in a little bit of a tough spot. I think that, you know, I mean, I don't want to discount just from a box office perspective, like that the Disney has for some reason become like the public enemy of like half of the country. um, so I don't know if that's gonna matter. I don't know. It like could. It'll be weird, and stupid. But I also sort of feel like I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm like, a sample size of one here, but I do feel like that there's like a fatigue for these types of movies. And I know you mentioned The Lion King doing really well, but I don't think anybody watched that and thought like, oh yeah, like this is great. I love this, more of this. And like I saw some of the,
Disney did if they hired Barry Jenkins for Lion King too.
yeah, I mean, you're not wrong there. I mean, but yeah, at a certain point, these things will kind of dry up, and no pun intended, I guess, considering we're under the
Little
sea. But
Mermaid, yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It doesn't look good to me.
Oh,
So
it looks awful.
yeah, so I'm just like a little bit skeptical, and I felt like the Oscar sort of commercial was a little desperate. So I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting. Like it's an interesting choice. Like I said, it should be like a top 10 pick, but it was higher than I would have expected, and I have probably 3 or 4 movies I would have considered before that personally, but we'll see. Should I get to those?
Yeah.
All right, beautiful. So I get 2 picks here, and I know what one of them is going to be. Uh, I'm going to go ahead. I don't know if you're thinking I'm going to do this, but I'm going to take Barbie.
I would have taken it in this series of two.
Okay, so this is a little bit of a wild card. Like we haven't really seen a movie like this perform major box office. We haven't even seen like a movie like this, like a toy adaptation that like the internet is wildly excited for reasons that are unclear outside of like some really clever marketing. It tonally, like nobody knows if it's going to be like a pure comedy, of a satire of some kind, a musical, like God only knows. But it's got a lot of buzz. It's become a meme, and I don't want to discount any of that stuff. It just feels like something that like is weirdly going to appeal to a lot of people, and it also is coming out. I mean, obviously, it's been talked to death, like the Barbie Oppenheimer weekend, and what are you seeing first? But outside like those 2 movies aside, like there's not like that much else that looks like a big box office dynamo after that, and that tends to happen most summers where you have just whatever the last big movie is that comes out that's like half decent, like it has like really long legs into August because nothing much else happens after
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
There's like
you'll get those like 3 or 4 weeks that number.
yeah, like the Bourne movies, I felt like became a franchise on the back of that, doing that. Christopher Nolan kind of famously does that, and Oppenheimer is poised to potentially do that this year. But I think Barbie is going to end up being the bigger play between those 2 movies, assuming they both stay on that weekend, which I think is still up for debate. But I'm going to slot in Barbie behind the Guardians. And then I'm a little bit torn on my next choice. Like I have a couple that I'm kind of like weighing here. I think I'm gonna go probably safe and slot in Fast X or Fast 10. What are we calling it?
Fast X, because that's what they do. All these movies are different. Like,
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if that was supposed to be an X or a 10. But I'm gonna pick Fast X. I do feel like I have read like just a couple like very cryptic like, like this buzz is not great. And it would end up being the third Fast movie in a row that I think kind of flops from a quality perspective, if that's the case. And maybe that's enough for people to kind of like step off the gas. um,
Oh,
when it comes to buying tickets for this, but I think it's going to be like the other movies I'm choosing like have a lower floor than this. I feel like, you know, there's potential for, you know, a big weekend and a kind of a quick death after that. But it should do well enough that to earn back this positioning.
yeah, those are the movies I had at 4 and 5.
Okay.
Well, what can you tell us about Fast X, John?
Well, Vin Diesel is definitely in it. It's the end of the road begins. That's what the poster says. Uh, I mean, who else? Like all of our friends, right? Like Ludacris will be in it, and Michelle Rodriguez will be in it, and Jordana Brewster.
Guy who,
Maybe is she still in those movies?
yeah, I think like Jason Momoa is the villain in this one,
Jason
and
Momoa.
he apparently he's like the son of someone who was
Jesus
died
Christ.
in Fast Five or
Okay.
something,
Oh my
and
god.
like,
Give me a
uh,
break. The Rock will not be in it.
right.
Definitely not in it.
Brie Larson is in it.
Oh wow, I did not know that. That's
Yeah.
cool. We will probably see more of John Cena.
Yeah.
So these are.
Charlize Theron is back, and
Oh, she's
Paula
still
Rodriguez. Yeah.
poking around there. Holy cow! Kurt Russell, is he still
No,
alive?
no, he died.
Damn, Mister Friendly
Mr.
or something.
Nobody or something.
Mr. Nobody, that's right, Mr. Friendly. That was on Lost, I think. But yeah,
Too many cars and racing
that's the
and
crew.
ridiculous stunts and
There's gonna be lots of crazy things that you didn't know cars can do because cars actually can't do that. But the movies do a good job at showing you cars doing that, and I appreciate them for that reason, even when they're not that good. Which the last two were not. I actually thought 9 was like probably better than people. I thought it was better than like, you know, its reputation ended up being. Even though I think like people were like, oh, Vin Diesel and John Cena are brothers. Like this movie's a joke, and you know you're not wrong about that. But
I mean,
still,
cars in space. I mean, you can't take the movie seriously at that point.
yeah. But still, like I didn't hate like the giant magnets and
Yeah.
all that stuff. That was kind of fun. There was like a jungle at one point that I kind of enjoyed. Like just like little things that I'm just like, yeah, I appreciate that you did that magnetized car thing, and I appreciate that you did that jungle thing. And you know, I think that that's going to be Fast X. Like three things where I'm like, yeah, like good on you. I'm glad you did that. And then 18 things where I'm just like, this is so freaking stupid. I cannot believe I paid money to do this. But I will have, and I'll enjoy it. So I think it's appropriate for this position again.
Okay. So, what do I get?
You get 6 and 7.
So I guess it doesn't matter which one of these two again that I pick. So
No,
I'm
sir.
gonna go with DC's The Flash.
Oh, okay.
And I think like despite like how much has been written about its star, I think that these DC movies have traditionally done pretty good business, and that the
Well,
ceiling for this is pretty good.
there was a little thing called Shazam
Oh
something.
yeah. The Shazam show, but this has power over the Batman, right? And not one Batman, but two Batmans.
Two Batman.
Yes, and it will bring maybe just seeing Ben Affleck will bring the Snyder cut people out, and
Oh, geez, that's funny.
um, so I guess like this movie's been kind of built up by James Gunn, and then also DC as like being like so good that there's no way that they could like get Ezra Miller out of it,
Yeah,
and they were just so pleased with how it turned out, and they decided that this was going to be their big movie, not only what was like supposed to be like a time travel, like because it's adapting the story Flashpoint, but also a way to like reboot DC as well at the same time. So I think there's a lot hedging on this, and I think like the first screening is at CinemaCon next week. So Warner Brothers is very bullish on it, and
Hmm.
I think that might speak loudly to its quality. Certainly, they'd like it to be good, and you told me, you said it yourself that Shazam was a pretty big failure, but A, you had Zachary Levi leading that film, and B, it had very poor reviews. So yeah, if this one can work and get good reviews, then I don't see why we can't expect 100 million opening weekend.
Wow.
So you think that's a big number, 100 million nowadays?
I do. Well, for this movie, I do. Yeah,
We'll see.
we will.
Um,
um,
and then my other pick at this spot is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
yeah. Okay, that's. I think you're on safer footing there for sure.
Although it is the first tentpole movie that has been like stars an 80-year-old
Yeah.
or 80 plus year old.
Yeah, I mean, sure, that's totally fair. Like, I think we're picking this in like seven or whatever it is for a reason, um, but I think that like it's I again, it just feels like a safe choice.
Right. I mean, it's the first one of these not directed by Steven Spielberg. Um, you know, uh, Phoebe Waller-Bridge doesn't really bring in that many people. I mean, Fleabag was big for some people, but
Yeah,
he's not a big name. So you're really watching it for Harrison Ford still, and nostalgia, and hoping that they keep true to their word and not do like he's too old jokes like they did in uh, Crystal Skull. And
like they did 15 years ago.
right. And I mean that might be, I don't know if that's a deterrent for a lot of people, like if they were like, "Oh, I really hated Crystal Skull and now like 15 years later I'm not going to give another Indiana Jones movie a shot." I think like
I doubt it. It's
I think
long
there's been
enough.
enough time that like people are like, "Yeah, I can go back for this now.
Yeah,
It's been long enough."
definitely.
And I think like they're going to put a lot of money and care into it, and I think I watched the latest trailer like 5 times. So I'm definitely excited for it. Uh, yeah, I don't see it's weird, John, because like I that's why I would pick something like The Flash has like maybe a better chance of like a bigger opening weekend than Indiana Jones 5, which is like kind of hard to believe, but I definitely think that's a possibility.
Um, yeah, it's possible.
And whether or not I picked Little Mermaid second, now that you're making me question that, I feel good with these other choices. That even if that was a reach, I feel like I'll be okay.
All right. Cool. So that was seven, right? So we're over to me for number eight.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. I get eight, and then you get nine, and then I get 10 to close us out. So I'm just kind of like scrolling to make sure I'm not missing anything too big. I have a couple I'm kind of debating between. Okay, I'm gonna go with Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Um,
That's the next one on my list.
okay, yeah. So I'm just like, I don't think the first Spider-Man Across the Into the Spider-Verse, is that what it was called?
Yeah, it's like I don't think it was a huge box office champion, but I think
Yeah.
it might have been when it came out, and
So
it
it grossed $384 million worldwide.
yeah,
So that's worldwide. We're only counting domestic. I don't have that number in front of me, but it wasn't, like No Way Home numbers. Like this is a different
right,
franchise. It's animated, obviously. It follows a different hero. There are some crossover characters. It certainly was like instrumental in introducing the concept of multiverse into kind of cinematic superhero movies, I guess. Um,
and that art style has certainly taken off. I mean, like
yeah,
it was another movie that's so far down on my list now that I don't think I'm gonna pick it because there's another animated movie coming out this summer that like has a very similar like comic booky art style. So
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think that the first one was really well received. I think people, even if they didn't see it in theaters, were like, "Oh, that was really cool. Like, I'd watch another one of those." And I think that it's got probably a better release date than the first one. I think people are like familiar enough with the concept. I feel like maybe you'll get some kids who just love Spider-Man who are coming in, even if they don't know much about this concept. But yeah, again, like it's just now we're just like looking for movies that have some recognition that could open well, and I think this is one of them. I think that there's a chance it could do really well, but I think at the very least it's going to be fine, and not like be a bomb. So I think it's a pretty solid choice here at 8.
do you know much about Spider Verse?
Well, I mean, like it's a Lord and Miller movie, right?
Yeah,
I don't think they directed it, but they wrote it. They wrote the first one too, um, and it follows Miles something,
Miles Morales.
Miles Morales, right? And who's like a different Spider-Man character. And I mean, I don't really know like what they're going to do, like what the like progression of the story is. All I know is in the first one, he like found himself in some sort of multiverse situation, and there was other Spider-Man that he kind of came into contact with, and it was very comic book-y visually. I think one of them was a pig.
Yes, yes, yeah. It included like all the different,
Lots of like Spider-Man spin-off characters.
yeah, Spider-Mans, all the Spider-Mans. But
Yes.
I think like the like really strong message of the movie that made people fall in love with it was like not only was it a great animated film that went on the win the Oscar for best animated film that year, but had this idea that anybody could be Spider-Man, and that was kind of nice to see on screen.
I sort of remember a Star Wars movie that had a similar message that everyone on the internet decided they hated for reasons that are unclear still to this day.
Yeah, I kind
Um,
of remember that one too.
but yes, you're right. That was sort of the premise there, and they all have like kind of they're all a Spider-Man, but they have a different kind of one specific quirk or tweak that makes them unique. And yeah, I mean, it was a fun movie, the first one. I feel like it's a little bit kind of like off the cultural radar, but maybe it won't take much to kind of snap people back into it.
Yeah, that's fair. And like I said, like that's kind of where I would have picked it. So
Yeah.
I think it's a fine choice.
So
I
you get the next one, unless you have more to add on that movie, but you get the next one and then I close it out.
no, I'm actually looking at some comps here to see what my last film is going to be,
Okay.
and
Getting a little nervous. You need some outside help.
oh, I might here. Let's see. I don't even know like what was the last. Yeah, let's keep talking here though. Like, do you think it's going to be a strong summer?
Quality wise,
Uh,
or is this? Are you saying like, is this box office going to be
yeah,
a big one?
this box office going to be good.
I mean, I think that the box office will be fine. I think it's probably like a deeper summer. Like, I think there's more of these movies that have the potential to do really well than the last couple summers for obvious reasons. I mean, last year it was obviously dominated by Top Gun Maverick. A few other movies did well, but it felt like it was, if Top Gun Maverick didn't come out, that's why everybody said Tom Cruise saved the movie industry. Like, it would have been bleak if that movie didn't, kind of keep a lot of theaters afloat. So I think that this year will be less of that, like needing one super hit to save the industry. But I think that there's nothing here where I'm just like, oh, that has Top Gun Maverick potential. Although I would have said the same thing last year about Top Gun Maverick. I didn't think it was going to
No
do
way,
as well as it did.
no way could have did that better.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that would have been a good movie that people were excited about. But I don't think are we gonna think that Indiana Jones, another kind of like old revival franchise, is gonna do that kind of box office? Like, I do not think it's going to. So yeah, I think that, like, hopefully at the end of this, we've seen a few good movies, and that the health of theater going is strong, and less dependent on a single event. That's what I'll say, and I think that will be the case. That's my hope, and that's what I think will happen.
Yeah, there's looks like a lot of different things that will bring people to theaters.
Yeah. Hopefully enough, and not everybody's going to go see the same one or two movies, but there's enough things that'll do well enough to kind of keep everybody happy.
All right, so we worked through that, and I think I've made my decision.
Okay.
I'm gonna go for the opposite of you, of the Barbie number, and do Oppenheimer
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Of course, this is the new Christopher Nolan project. I was looking at comps, and it was, of course, hard to get comps for Tenet because that was like the only movie during the pandemic, and nobody went to like really go see it.
It was
So
a little early still.
yeah, so that one was not good comps to check out. I guess I went as far back as like Interstellar to see like maybe like a similar like concept movie, and why it's certainly not a space race movie or like this science fiction drama. I think that there's enough star power in Oppenheimer, and certainly enough money spent on making it that we're going to start hearing a lot more about it as we come into July. And it's the Cillian Murphy starring movie playing Oppenheimer, the man who created the atomic bomb, and it has Robert Downey Jr. in it. And basically, if you're not in Barbie, you're in Oppenheimer. A humongous cast. This has got to be like the first movie that Christopher Nolan has made outside of Warner Brothers, and perhaps his career. Famously was upset about the way that Tenet was handled. So he went somewhere else to make his new movie, and had the highest bidder make it. So I don't know too much whether or not that this will be. It probably will. It probably will like be like have the exclusivity of like IMAX screens for like 3 or 4 weeks, right? Because like Barbie isn't going to play there.
No, it'll be fine
like,
there.
Oppenheimer will have these big 70 millimeter prints because that's what Nolan does. And it's funny though, John, because like this on paper does not seem like a movie that people actually want to see. It's like, yeah, you have the Christopher Nolan of it, but like it's going to be, it feels like super dry. And
I
compared
guess.
to like the bubbly fun of Barbie, I know like you can argue like men versus women, but when women take men to movies, they're gonna take them to Barbie. They're not gonna go to Oppenheimer. So I don't know what that will say about Oppenheimer's opening weekend, or what will ultimately be. Am I excited for? Yeah, I'm still excited for it, even though like John, maybe I haven't loved his last two films.
Yeah, same. Yeah, right.
I forget even what the boat one was called. What was it called?
Dunkirk?
Yeah, Dunkirk. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
it. I was like, I appreciated like
The
the
boat one.
yeah. I
What was it
appreciate
about? Somewhere. I don't know. It was a boat. There was a
lots
boat
of
there.
yeah submarines. I appreciate like the film style, like shooting in that and like seeing that in the theater on the big 70 millimeter prints, and that was pretty impressive. But outside of that, obviously I can't remember the damn name of the film, so it didn't leave that much of an impression on me.
um, yeah.
But yeah, I'm interested to see what you pick for your last one here.
Well, I was going to pick that if you didn't. So good job by you there. I do have a couple. I mean, there's no harm in kind of saying some of my thoughts now. Um, as much as my heart wants to, I don't think I can slot in book club the next chapter. So I'm consider. I mean, Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. I guess like I might consider, even though I feel like there's no. I mean, it's pretty telling that like the franchise that was like basically the Fourth of July franchise for a decade is coming on June 9th. I think that kind of says everything that you need to about where that stands in kind of the public consciousness. But yeah, got to pick something. So it's a franchise, and there's robot animals. So I guess that's something. Elemental, I'll consider for the Pixar-ness of it all, even though, again, that's 10 years ago, I would have been like, hey, mid June Pixar movie, yes,
Yeah, yeah,
let's do it.
that would have been a slam dunk, right?
Yeah, but now I'm less confident now. And then, I mean, there's like all these random things like I don't know anything about, but I could see like maybe having sleeper end of summer hit potential, like Disney movie Haunted Mansion, maybe Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I don't even know if that's live or animated, but it's a franchise.
Well, I need to know what you pick first, and then we can.
Yeah, then you can tell me what the movies are. I guess I'll just like again like play it pretty safe here, and I'll just take Elemental. Even though I don't think it's gonna like do super well, I think it'll do well enough. Hopefully, if it's high quality, people will be interested in it for sure. Lightyear was the last Pixar movie, I believe, and it was I think financially their least successful movie ever. Um, Outside of maybe Soul, which they released straight to Disney
Yeah,
Plus, and Onward.
yeah, Onward was released right before the pandemic.
Yeah, so setting those aside, Lightyear just was a mess for them. But seems like it's back to the roots of some of their more beloved movies of the previous decades, between like it's got big Inside Out vibes, right?
Yeah,
So hopefully it can, if it delivers, even a fraction of as good as that movie, then I think people and families in particular will be excited to see it. But yeah, it's not like a slam dunk like previous Pixar movies where I just think there's not a lot of great options for the last spot. So I feel like I should probably go with that.
yeah, it's funny. So ultimately, we named every single movie that I had on my list.
Yeah.
I was actually deciding between Oppenheimer and Transformers myself.
Okay. Sure. Fair enough.
Um, Transformers has traditionally opened pretty well, and like they seemed like pretty like staying power. But I'd maybe argue like maybe internationally they're bigger than they are domestically nowadays.
Yeah. Maybe.
I just think that there's a lot of fatigue with that franchise, and I don't know if like Michael Bay was holding it up. Like people were like, "Oh yeah, Michael Bay explosion's cool," but like I actually really liked Bumblebee, which was the
Yeah, everybody did. I never saw it because I really am just not a fan of any of the Transformers movies. I never bothered with Bumblebee, but I know everybody seemed to really enjoy that. I don't know. I mean, Bumblebee, I'm just looking up like box office wise.
no, I don't
Um,
think it was that
it didn't do
amazing.
much, right? And then the one prior to that was Transformers: The Last Night, which I never saw, obviously, and that did
System,
$130 million in the United States.
yeah, and Bumblebee did 127. So
So it's a pretty diminished franchise.
yeah, compared to like its height with Transformers 2 did 402 million.
Jeez.
But then like you see worldwide, like foreign, when they did like a billion for Transformers 3 and 4.
Yeah, so you can appreciate why they're still cranking these out, even though nobody seems to be asking for them in this country.
Right. And
um,
then I also had Elemental just based on Pixar's past, but then I looked at the comps of Lightyear, and Lightyear was supposed to be like their big like, oh, this is like a Toy Story character and everything, and it just like didn't even open big. It was like very disappointing opening. And I'm just like, this is another Pixar movie that you're gonna have to sell people on new characters and get people in the theaters. I hope maybe the colorfulness of it and will make some draws. So
yeah, we'll see.
think
So,
they said interesting, John. I thought they said like Ed Eisner Ed Eisner, who passed away, the Mary Tyler Moore actor, and also the
up.
actor in Up. He recorded a short. before he passed away.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
and that short is going to appear in front of Elemental, I think.
Okay, that's nice. So yeah, I think that's our summer movie box office game slash preview. Are you feeling confident in your team, or do you feel like maybe I got one up on you?
I don't know if I'm like seriously thinking about like maybe like I would have alternated Little Mermaid and Fast X.
Yeah.
That would have been like my biggest change. But outside of that, I'm feeling pretty confident. Where did you have like? Did you have the Flash as high as I did, or did you just like kind of discount that one way
I
down?
wasn't as high on the Flash. I don't remember, like that was in like the 6-7 range, right?
Yeah,
So I probably would have like put Spider-Man over it. But that's, maybe not deservedly. I'm not really sure. Oppenheimer, I was gonna pick next, actually, like, almost considered instead of Spider-Man. So that was a little bit higher on that than you did. I think that's a good pick for that late, um, but yeah, largely I think I was just a little bit lower on Little Mermaid. And the Flash, I mean, again, like it should be picked in this bunch of 10, um, but
yeah,
I was slightly lower on it, I think.
yeah. If you and I are excited about it, we talked about it at the beginning.
No, I know. Yeah, you're right. You did what I tell you should have did. Right? Is like you pick movies that not necessarily we're super jazzed to see, but we think other people will be for a variety of reasons. So,
Yeah, like for instance, like I think Little Mermaid looks like garbage, but when I talked to my wife about it, she's like, "You're going with me on opening day," and I'm
oh God bless it.
so she's so excited to see it in live action. So uh, I wonder if that's going to translate to a lot of people too.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It definitely could. Right? I mean, that's a big one in a way that none of the relatively recent Disney live action adaptations have been. So
Did
yeah,
you did you hear that uh, they're doing live action Moana already? Like Dwayne
I did.
Johnson announced it the other
I did. I saw that. Yeah. And Lilo and Stitch. So we're doing all Hawaiian Disney live action movies, and they will be seen.
I don't know, John. I kind of want to see this Barry Jenkins Lion King too. I mean, like,
I hope you enjoy it.
I love Barry Jenkins' work.
Yeah, so do I. It's just like I'd rather just watch freaking Moonlight again.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. But yeah, that's the summer of 2023. There's going to be other movies that we're going to probably be more excited about coming out that won't do as well, but we'll talk about them. Probably see some of these as well, and we'll talk about those. If you're interested in following us and hearing our thoughts on that, you can follow us on Twitter at It's the Pick Pod, and Max, you're at
MH Colville.
You can also subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or any other podcatching app. While you're there, please leave us a review. 5 stars will help other people discover and enjoy the show. You can send us an email at itsthepictures@gmail.com and let us know who you think is going to win the game. No prizes if you're right or wrong, but just make us feel good by telling us that we did a good job. And you can share other thoughts too, like your canned competition feelings,
Films.
your summer Super Mario Brothers box office takes, etc. Okay, do it. You can also follow us on Letterboxd and see what we've been watching. Just search for It's the Pictures there. And finally, there's the Substack at It's the Pictures at Substack.com. And what you've been writing about, Max?
Yeah, so I did a recap of what I watched over March and did a mini review of John Wick 4, which I briefly talked about last episode as well, and just how much I loved that. Other movies that I've seen recently include the Dungeons and Dragons movie Honor Among Thieves, which I also enjoyed, more so than maybe I anticipated. Dungeons and Dragons movie. I mean, it's not super high quality, but I'd argue that most people will have a good time with it. And of course, the Super Mario movie, which I'll be talking about shortly. I wanted to add that Substack has released a new function called Notes, where if you're in there, you can see some of the things that I've been adding to there. Um, One thing that I posted in there was my interview with Suzume director Makoto Shinkai for Roger Ebert. I've loved his movies for a long time, and it was a privilege to be able to have some time with him and do a video interview with him while he was promoting the film, which Suzume can now be seen in limited release in theaters.
Cool. Very good. Very good. So we talked about the movie a little bit earlier, but why you've seen it now, so you can tell us what are some of your thoughts on Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, the movie's awful, John. It is total trash. It was funny because like I grew up with Mario. I love Mario. I was playing Mario. I was playing some Mario levels tonight. I love the gameplay of the game, and some people who have seen the movie argue that like Mario was never known for its story. But guess what? When it's going to be a movie, it needs a little bit more to it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the only thing that I really took out of it, John, was there was a lot of like references in the background of like the other classic Nintendo franchises. Like the first place you see Mario in the movie is at this like pizza restaurant that's themed after the Nintendo classic Punch Out. Or you see like a French restaurant with the duck hunt duck on the sign. And like little things like that kind of like, oh, look at that, look at that, look at that. That kind of like excited me.
Yeah.
In like a nostalgia level, but like outside of that, the movie is more of like a collection of clips than it is a coherent like A to B storyline. Because the idea is like Mario and Luigi are plumbers, as they are in the game, and they have a bad job, and they get into the sewers of Brooklyn to try to help on another leak, and they find a green tube, and they go into the Mushroom Kingdom world, and Luigi gets captured by Bowser, and so Mario has to find him and get back home. And I guess at that point, it's kind of fun that they don't have to go save Princess Peach, who is working with Mario to kind of like save Luigi, and they have to go through a whole bunch of things and travel a lot of references. Like there's a scene where Mario has to fight Donkey Kong, and it looks like it's straight out of Super Smash Brothers, that famous franchise. And then right after that, everybody selects like go karts so that they can play Mario Kart and get across the world on Rainbow Road. So it's like trying to hit like a classic Mario franchises all along the way before like they have the big ultimate fight with Bowser. And I don't know, it's a quick 90 minutes, and I mean that certainly helped its box office because this thing can play at a clip. And it was funny. It was when I went to the screening. It was like it was a daytime screening, and it seems like it was one of those movies that was going to be like the first movie for a lot of kids. Like, oh, this is the first time you go to the theaters and see a movie.
Yeah.
So I guess that certainly has helped. Why I told you that there was like a drought of children's movies coming out, and people think this one's pretty benign to take the
It
time
was
to.
my friends, yeah, took their kid. It was his first time at the movies.
Right. So I guess I could see where that has been doing well that way.
Yeah.
But as for me, like I'd be you know John, I love video games, and I
I know
certainly
you
love
do.
Mario, and I was telling Shannon I'd be perfectly satisfied to never see that movie again.
Ah,
Um, I'm sure I'll see the sequel because this movie made so much money that is definitely happening.
yeah,
Uh,
no.
so maybe they'll make a Legend of Zelda movie.
I'm 100% sure they're going to.
um, that's a bad like to say.
All right, fair enough, fair enough. So yeah, I don't know. I'll probably just watch it at some point, but I refuse to give it box office money. It has enough already. I need to vote with my dollars.
Yeah, no, but it's definitely not a good movie. It's
Yeah.
bad, but
Yeah, I know. It looked bad. I thought it looked bad, and I was right there. I watched recently the movie American Hustle, which is going to be having its 10-year anniversary later this year. I think I've said this on this podcast, but on my other podcast, there will be pod. We are going to do a bracket later this, probably toward the end of the summer of 2013 movies. So we normally do a bracket of the previous year's releases and decide on the best movie of the year. And we're going to do a mid-year historical bracket for movies that came out in 2013. So I'm excited about that. And I've been watching a lot of 2013 movies, most recently American Hustle. In my head, I liked this movie. Like, it's a kind of a weird movie where, like, it came out.
should I say I'm sorry now or later?
No, I mean whenever. It came out and it was like a pretty big hit. When like movies like this could still be hits, you know. And it got like I think 10 Oscar nominations. It didn't win any, which was a little bit weird. Like the New York Film Critics Circle named it the best movie of the year, which was in hindsight bizarre.
They wanted to be first. I think that's what it was.
No, I think that I think I had read about it at the time, and it was like they were so divided that like nobody could decide, and like somebody at the last minute threw out American Hustle, and they were all just kind of like fine. But anyway, so it was like a big movie in the moment, but it has like no kind of relevancy now. And watching it, you're just sort of like, oh my god, like this was something that like people were kind of like going bonkers for at the time. I remember seeing it and I was like, oh, I guess this is like okay, like I like it, you know. But I wasn't like wild for it. Now I can kind of see like removed from like I guess the hype of what it was like in that moment. It's not a very good movie at all.
Well, it was coming off of Silver Linings Playbook, right? And so like
Yeah.
that was a pretty beloved movie.
It was, and again, I liked that movie a lot more at the time than I like this one. I don't know if I would still like Silver Linings Playbook as much as I did.
You have to like that movie.
Well, that I was going to say that there's like complicating factors there,
Yeah.
being the Eagles of it all. But this one just is like the thing that like struck me about it. It's about this like real kind of based on a true story of like these New Jersey politicians who get busted for bribes, and these like kind of con individuals, Christian Bale and Amy Adams characters are being used by the FBI to kind of get at the corrupt politicians. It kind of just becomes like a big mess. Bradley Cooper's in the movie playing one of the FBI agents who's like kind of a wild man. Jennifer Lawrence plays Christian Bale's wife. And then Jeremy Renner plays like the mayor of like one of the towns in New Jersey who's at the center of the scandal. And so it's got a lot of star power. It's directed by David O. Russell. Like the acting I thought was, I guess a mixed bag. Like the two best performances in the movie I felt like were Cooper, who just has like so much energy, it's like kind of hard to look away, and then Jeremy Renner, who's kind of like the only one playing a like fleshed out human, and then the other three are kind of like caricatures. But the other two, like the Renner and Cooper, I think are legitimately good. The movie though, like kind of like is very flaccid, for lack of a better word, and like it kind of just like goes from like musical, it's a little Guardians of the Galaxy for me, which is just like there's nothing happening but like it's playing music that like you have nostalgia for, and it's like, oh, I love that song, oh I love that song, oh I love that song, oh I love that song, and the whole movie it just goes from one song to the next, and it's just so annoying. And like they're 70s songs mostly, so it's like, oh, that's fine, like, oh cool, now Jennifer Lawrence is singing Live and Let Die, and I love that song when they do a slow motion montage. So like that was just like the whole movie, and I found it so grating. I was like almost stunned because I didn't remember that about it at all. It was weird. But yeah, it's just, I hope it doesn't advance too far in the bracket when we get to it on the other show, because I was not fond of this movie. I was much fonder of it 10 years ago, and I guess I'm glad I watched it because I know I don't ever have to watch it again. But it was almost surprising how much I disliked it because I just didn't have the same antipathy toward it that other people do. But they were right all along. So that's my American Hustle thoughts. Seems like you're in agreement at least, even though you haven't watched it recently.
Yeah, I haven't watched it in a long time, but I just don't think it's aged well in my mind at
It
all.
really has not, yeah, for a lot of reasons, some of which I didn't get into, but it does not. Um, so yeah, that's I guess that's the show this week. It was good.
Yeah, we did well. We did it.
We did it. Now we just have to count up the monies. But yeah, it was fun. So thank you as always, and we thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.